All right, what's going on YouTube? This is Boxingwave, and we are back with the Wave Report number 14. I want to go back to doing these because, it's been over a month since the last one that I did, and I want to get back to talking about multiple topics in one video. All right. So let's start out with these weekend reviews. I already did two separate videos on the Alexis Rocha win and also the Okoli Smith drama. All right, I did two separate videos on that early this morning, so be sure to check those out. Also, a lot of talk about Spence and Bud Crawford. We already know now that they officially are fighting. Check out my last year breakdown on that fight, and also be on the lookout for some content starting this week on that fight. I'm gonna have a ton of ideas of different topics that I wanted to discuss for that specific fight, since I believe this is the biggest fight that I had to cover in a long time, in my opinion, the most anticipated fight. And I definitely look forward to having some guests on the channel as well to discuss that fight. So be on the lookout for all of that. Now, let's get into this weekend's fight between Luis Alberto Lopez, who crushes Conlan over the weekend in 5 rounds. I think he even dropped him in like the third round or so. He destroyed him. Conlan, I thought, was going to put up a much better fight. I know I didn't do a breakdown, but it's simply because I just didn't have time to do the film study on the fight. I was going to do one anyway, and I actually did put a little bit of money on Conlan to pull off the upset. But I wasn't sure. It was more like Lopez. I was looking too deep into his flaws, and how, defensively flawed he is, and how, he's not the most technical guy, and he's a wild fighter. I think there were opportunities that would have been opportunities for Conlan to take advantage of some of his defensive flaws. The guy is not fundamentally sound, but Lopez walked them down and destroyed them much easier, and it wasn't really that competitive. I think it was a lot of action in the first, the first few rounds, or even the rounds that had lasted only because Conlan was fighting back, but he never looked like he was in control of the fight. Even there was times where he was winning certain portions of the rounds, it looked like Lopez was very, very relaxed the entire time. Even with all of the times he kept getting hit, it just looked like it didn't really matter, and I'm going to tell you, to be honest, by round 2, I was already concerned for Conlan. And I was like, man, I don't think he's going to last, because this is not the pace he wants to fight. Especially because we saw what happened when he fought Lee Wood. Lee Wood kept the pressure going, but Lee Wood had a terrible start. And he's had that, in other fights. Well, Lee Wood is a kind of guy that gets warmed up and adjusts to his opponents. But Lee Wood kept the pressure on Conlan and kept walking him down. And even though he took a lot of punishment and he got hurt a couple times in a fight, earlier in the fight, Lee Wood kept it going. Lopez kept it going as well, but he did it with such ease and such calmness. And he's really a hard fighter to prepare for, because he's so awkward, and he's throwing these punches from these wild angles, very wide shots that he's throwing, looping shots that he's throwing, a very wild uppercut that he throws, and he's very, very quick, you know what I mean? And he's tough, he's durable, he's just coming forward, and he's just walking all over you. And Conlan didn't do a good job in controlling distance. He just didn't. It was easy for Lopez to get in range to land those power shots. And I didn't see, I was watching a little bit of it again this morning just to see if there was anything Conlan could have done. And to be honest, I don't think it would have really mattered. He came out fighting as a southpaw. We know that he can switch. He can fight orthodox. But to be honest, I really don't think it really mattered. I just think he would have really, I don't think he's that good at controlling distance. It just wasn't enough. And you can get to him if you pressure him hard enough. He kept getting hit. And unlike Lopez, every hit, you can tell that it was just wearing him down. And it was much more effective anytime Lopez landed as opposed to when Conlan land. Conlan looks powerful when he's fighting lower rated fighters, but every time at this point when he stepped up on a world championship level. And I'm not talking about Miguel Mariaga, faded, older Miguel Mariaga. I'm talking about Lee Wood. I'm talking about now Lopez as well. He's just not at that level. And at this point, it's got to have a little bit of concern because now you got two dramatic stoppage losses. You know, the last time, your first time you lost to Wood, you got knocked out of the ring. And, you know, I think you had to get taken out on a stretcher. This time you went down, but it took a while for you to get up from that brutal uppercut from Lopez in the 5th round. It's just, at this stage, it's time to fall back a little bit, tone it down, and just work on your game. And I don't know if he can be a champion, being that pressure is just too much for you. You know, what are you going to have to do to offset that pressure? Because all of these fighters are seeing exactly how to beat you this early in your career. You got to have to, you know, regroup and change some things and work on your game, you know, and work on fight on the inside. I mean, he can do it, but defensively, he just can't take the pressure, you know, and the hits. You just can't do it. You know what I mean? So congratulations to Luis Alberto Lopez, man. Now on to Lee. Lee Wood. Let's talk about Lee Wood and Mauricio Lara. Now, a lot of drama, a lot of controversy at the weigh-in because Lara pretty much came in weighing as a super featherweight. You know, I think he came in just under 130 pounds, which is way over the limit, almost 4 pounds over the limit at 126. So Lara was stripped for I believe this was for the WBA title. He was stripped prior to the fight. So Wood, luckily for Wood, you know, he gambled on himself. He took a chance and decided to continue with the fight. And I believe Lara did come down a little bit more, but he was clearly overweight. You know what I mean? And Lee Wood took the fight and he won the fight. He won a decision. He was able to even drop Lara earlier in the fight. He did much better this time around. I don't know if that is a credit to Lara just not taking the fight seriously, you know, being that he came in overweight like the way he did. Maybe he's just too big for the weight, or maybe he just didn't prepare the same. We know the first fight was just like 3 months ago. You know what I mean? We was just talking about that. I feel like it seems like it was just like weeks ago. You know what I mean? The first fight, but I don't really know how to explain it. But all I know is that Wood stayed disciplined this time around, and he got the win. You know, and I actually put money on him again. You know, I put money on him the first time, hoping that, you know, and really with these underdogs that I'm unsure which I was. You know, I think Lara, you know, was most likely to win because all he needed was an opportunity for Wood to slip up. And I think those opportunities was still there. But there was not many of them, not like the first fight. You know, I felt like in the first fight, Wood was winning. And I think he was eager for a stoppage. He was just putting himself in positions and putting himself in danger. You know what I mean? But in this fight here, it was a boring fight. It was kind of slow because Wood was just controlling distance and keeping Lara on the end of his jab. A lot less exchanges like the first one. So it was a lot less action, but he fought the fight he needed to fight in order to win because Lara is a brutal KO artist. We've seen it time and time again. He's such a huge puncher, and Wood fought a smart, disciplined fight. He stuck behind, you know, I mean, there was a few times where I was like, Wood looks like he's getting a little too far into it, you know, and he's doing well. Hopefully he doesn't make the same mistake as before, because you can tell the way that Lara was fighting, he was counting on a good opportunity to land a big shot, you know, just like he did in the first fight. But Wood did, you know, he stayed consistent throughout the entire fight. And even in like the 12th round, he won the 12th round. Like, he still did well. And he was able to hurt and buzz Lara a few times in the fight. So Lee Wood is now currently the WBA champion. And When it comes to seeing Lopez win yesterday, because Lopez and I believe Warrington might have fought the last time on the same night, or I'm not sure, but it's time to switch it up. I don't know if there's any kind of rematch situation with Lara and Wood, but let's change things up a little bit. Let's not do any more of these Mexico versus British type of fights. I mean, you're gonna get it anyway because there's other Mexican champions here, but let's. It's time. I think it's time for us to get some unifications in, and I've been basically begging this for years at featherweight. It's just no one unifies at this division. From the times where, Russell was champ and Leo Santa Cruz and Carl Frampton and even before that, like it's been years and years, over a decade since anyone unified. A lot of great fighters here. It's just no one unifies. And let's get these unifications going, Let's switch it up. If Wood and Lopez don't fight each other, you have Robesi Ramirez, and I know everybody's basically on a different network, different promoter. So I get it. Everyone is, Lopez is, fought Conlan on ESPN. I don't know if Lopez is free to go where he wants. Before, Lopez fought Warrington on dazn, I believe. All right, so hopefully Wood and Lopez can get it going. You have Robesi Ramirez, who's also a champ at 126. And then you got Ray Vargas, and who's still a champ. And then you got what's his name? Figueroa, Brandon Figueroa, who's also like the WBC interim champ or something like that. So those two should be fighting each other for that main WBC strap. And then you got Robesi Ramirez, and then you got these two now, Wood and Lopez. Please, I'm begging you, let's at least by the end of the year, let's get let's get one unification. None of these guys are mega stars, and let's just keep Warrington out of it. Warrington has gotten his many of title opportunities. Let's change it up. Lara lost, and he lost on the scale. Let's get Lara out the picture. He's a good fighter, and there's plenty of fights that I would love to see that involved him. But let's let him work on, whether or not he's going to stay at 126, go to 130. Remove him. Remove Josh Warrington. All right? Remove him. He lost to Lara, didn't even beat him in a rematch, got another title opportunity, and went on to lose to Lopez. Let's not keep having these same fights over and over again. Let's switch it up, and let's get some unifications at 126. All right? So that's just my my thoughts on that and in those fights. Now let's talk about a little bit of boxing news. We got Frank Martin. He's looking to return against Artem Harutyanyan. Okay, German fighter. Not really familiar with him. I've never seen him before. Okay, I looked at his box rec. I never remember watching any of those fights, not even on undercard. So I'm not familiar with him. I know he has some sort of WBC like intercontinental strap or something, or international strap. Whatever. I don't know what's up with this fight, but the key thing about this fight is that it would not be on the Spence and Bud undercard. I figured out Frank Martin, being that he's Errol Spence's fighter, that he would definitely be on the undercard. And I did a video the other day saying that I would love to see him fight a Isaac Cruz on the undercard. That would have been perfect. But this fight is going to be a couple of weeks prior to that on Showtime. And, I don't know. I don't have any thoughts. I don't know how Artem fights. And just because I'm not familiar with him doesn't mean he's not good. So I would like to watch a little bit of his fights. I know he has like a lot of clubhouse fights on YouTube. So not no major televised fights. So I'm going to check him out before I give you my thoughts on that. But I'm kind of disappointed because Showtime do have a nice stable of fighters over there. And Frank Martin being on that undercard of Spence and Bud would have been pretty dope. I was hoping to see something like that. But I guess we're not going to get that. So for whatever reason. So that's the news on that. If anybody have seen Artem fight before, let me know in the comments. Give me to share your thoughts. But to be honest, there would have been better fights that they could have made. Especially at 135, which is loaded right now. You know what I mean? Kambosos is looking to make a fight with Lomachenko. All right. They both have recently lost to Devin Haney. And, that fight was almost going to happen before if Lomachenko didn't go back home to the Ukraine during the attack on the Ukraine from Russia. So they're looking to have some sort of stadium fight. I know Lomachenko is battling with the sanctioning bodies right now in order to try to get himself back in position to get a title shot. So I don't know how that's going to work, but I don't know. I'm not hearing any rematch talks. I hear rematch talks with the fans, but I'm not hearing much rematch talk from Lomachenko's side. It seems like they're just battling the sanctioning bodies in order to get themselves back in position, a high-ranking position, with one, if not all, their sanctioning bodies, so they can go back into another title shot soon. All right. This is a good fight. It'll be when I hear this fight and Kambosos is looking for the get back, and obviously Lomachenko is as well. I would prefer to see Shakur Stevenson in that mix. But being that they fight with Top Rank, you can mix it up anyway. I wouldn't mind seeing this if seeing Shakur Stevenson fight Jermaine Ortiz if he can't get Tank. Obviously, if he can't get Devin Haney, everybody wants Devin Haney. Everybody wants Tank. Devin Haney has all the jewelry. He has all the belts, and then Tank is the name, the big name. So if no one can get all of them, either one of them. I like this fight with Loma and Kambosos. Throw Shakur in there in a mix. Jermaine Ortiz, obviously, he's out there. I'm cool with whatever fight that goes down. You know what I'm saying? As long as if they can't get what they want, those fights are all cool. You know what I mean? That's how I feel about that. My thoughts on Kambosos fighting Lomachenko. I would be leaning towards Lomachenko, but I would think it would be very competitive too. I would be leaning towards Lomachenko winning that fight. But I think it would be a close fight. You know what I mean? I think with every fight, I think we're going to get a little bit less of Lomachenko closer. I think he's pushing past his prime a little bit more with every fight. I just think at one point he was just way more dominant. I've expressed that in a lot of my recent videos. So I think with these fights, they become more competitive as he ages, and fights that he would have dominated at one point, because at one point I actually thought he was the best fighter, one of the best fighters in the world in these divisions. Now these fights are becoming more and more 50-50 fights because he is aging, and I don't see the reflexes that he had. I don't see the pressure and the dominance and just the overwhelming, you know what Loma used to do. I'm not saying he doesn't do it anymore, but he was better at one point. So with that being said, I would like to see this fight. This is cool. Again, Shakur Stevenson being in the mix, that's great too. And even Jermaine Ortiz, Jermaine really wants a Shakur fight. Shakur doesn't have that many options. I don't think anyone is going to really fight him unless they have to. I don't think Tank is going to fight him. The risk reward factor there is just too much to lose for Tank. Devin Haney, I feel like I've said this before. Devin Haney will not fight Shakur Stevenson until they are at a higher weight. I just don't think it's going to happen right now. I would like it to. I would like Tank to happen. But I'm talking about what I think is going to happen as opposed to what I feel and what I want as a fan. But if Jermaine Ortiz is, I would love the Jermaine Ortiz fight. I like Jermaine Ortiz's chances over the other people we've seen Shakur face. So I would love that fight. I rate Jermaine Ortiz highly. I thought the fight with Loma was extremely close, a debatable fight. Way much more than what the scorecards read, at least in that fight. So I would love to see the Jermaine Ortiz fight with Shakur Stevenson if he can't get, you know, a bigger name or something like that, like a Kambosos, like a Devin Haney, of course, and like a Tank Davis. All right. Also, William Zepeda, obviously Frank Martin, all of those guys are still available. I mean, I'm just talking about a top rank type fight. All right. So anyway, that's my thoughts on that. Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn is back in the talks. I mean, it's just been a whole mess. I think Smith stops Eubank, and then was a situation where I think they started talking about the Conor Benn fight, and then when all of the mess happened with the tests and it's hard to keep up with it because I remember the exact order, but they went back into negotiations with Liam Smith and Eubank rematch, and then Liam Smith had a back injury which postponed the fight. And now he's having a flare up again with his injury, with the same injury. So now they're looking to move past that fight and go on into a Conor Benn fight again. Smith also was he was the mandatory for Janabek's title, all right? And he turned that down to fight Eubank first. So it's like a crazy order, all of this. But, I've lost interest in the Eubank thing because the Eubank and Benn fight was great leading up to it originally because of all the trash talk and all that. But Eubank lost his fight against Liam Smith, got stopped where he was, the favorite to win. And then Conor Benn got messed up and jammed up with this whole drug situation. So it kind of killed the buzz a little bit. And plus, what are they going to do? Are they still going to have a catch weight? I know Eubank said before, he's not going to agree to a catch weight now. But you lost your fight and he got popped. So what are we doing here? I don't even know. I felt like originally I didn't really care for the fight like that. But now I kind of do, in the sense that I think, being that Eubank just lost, I think Ben has a shot. But it's I don't know, man. It's Eubank, because of the loss, his stock went down, and so did Ben's, as far as him being a credible fighter. You know what I mean? I just don't know. I'm sure it's still big in the UK. I'm sure out there, people are going to still spend a lot of money on this fight. Again, I wasn't interested in a fight like that until the promotion of the fight. It kind of got me hyped into it. It really did, because Eubank pulled one of the best trash talking experiences, sort of like Charlo and Tony Harrison. Eubank was on God tier when it came to that trash talk, and him doing eating the burgers, and I loved it, but I think it killed the buzz a little bit before all that. All right, and I still want to see him get back to the Liam Smith because some people say the elbow affected the stoppage and all that. So I do kind of want them to run it back. But at the same time, this does nothing for the division. None of this is doing anything for 160, which I continue to say is the worst division in boxing currently. So no one is doing anything there. All right. And our last topic of the day, Tyson Fury is back at it with his shenanigans. He's coming out and saying that he sent his team sent a contract to AJ. Eddie Hearn has come back and said, listen, he's been in talks with George Warren from Queensberry. They have talks about it, but they haven't had a contract sent to them. And it's looked like Hearn, according to Hearn, they're looking to move forward and still continue their plan, their 2-fight plan, which is to fight Dillian White in the summer and then go on to fight Deontay Wilder in December. You know what I mean? It's just like last year, when AJ, came off the loss against Usyk, and Fury was calling out AJ, and I know I made some content basically saying look, you lost to Usyk, but Fury's a different type of fight. You know what I'm saying? Go into it. You know what I mean? It's not like you got stopped by Usyk. You did better in the rematch. It's still a competitive fight. Go into the fight with Fury. You know, it'll get you right back in the mix. You win a WBC title. Then you have the option to fight Wilder. You know, if you were to win. Go in and do it. You know, a lot of people were against that because they felt like, you know, AJ coming off a loss is crazy for him to fight Fury. But, you know, I'm looking at these guys where it still would have been the most, I guess, the biggest British boxing fight ever, you know, if they were to really do that. But now I feel differently about it because Fury went on to fight Derek Chisora. And it's like, you know, Fury is just so unpredictable, man. Don't stop your plans for Tyson Fury. I advise any fighter at this point not to do it. You know, I mean, he seems to still be talking about Wilder more than anybody. Just the fact that the Usyk fight fell through and he's sending contract out to fighters that don't hold any titles. Historically, don't you want to be undisputed? I mean, you only have one guy. You know, and I feel like Joshua will always be there. You know, whether you win or lose to Usyk, Joshua will always be there. You know, and you're going out your way to do all of these other fights. But when it comes to the other fights that, you know, people want at that time, because people wanted the Joshua fight at that time. And, you know, you had these crazy wild deadlines for AJ, but didn't have them for Chisora and all these other fighters that he was trying to call out. It's like, bro, what are you doing? Like, this guy is so unpredictable, man. To be honest, if I was Team AJ at this point, as big as the Tyson Fury fight is, I would just move past him too, man, because this guy is such an opportunist. He's a phenomenal fighter. I will never diss his skill set. He's a phenomenal fighter, and I believe that he beats Usyk. But doesn't change the way he moves. And his character, you know, he's fraudulent. He says things. He's hypocritical. You know, sometimes I think he's a marketing genius and he knows how to keep himself relevant in a fight. But at the same time, he's a giant hypocrite. You know, he lies. He's just a clown. I mean, he's a very hard guy to like. But I like him in the ring. In the ring, he gets busy. I would never take that away from him. But when it comes to making fights, it's like, man, it's always problematic. It's always something. It's always an issue. So if I was AJ, I would move forward, fight Dillian White, and go on to take that Deontay Wilder fight that a lot of us been asking for. To be honest, you cannot tell me that there should be any other plans going on but AJ fighting Wilder and Fury fighting Usyk. You know, and the winner of AJ and Wilder should be fighting the winner of Usyk and Fury. And that'll be that. You know, even if it's a fight we've seen before. If AJ wins and Usyk wins, then maybe they'll have to fight each other for a third time. If Fury wins and Wilder wins, then maybe they have to fight each other for a fourth. Cool. But that is the most realistic. Like, that should be the only option. To get rid of this generation. We have a nice group of newer, younger guys coming up. Let's at least like settle the score with this generation and get these last fights out of the way. Let's get Usyk and Fury. Let's get AJ and Fury as well. You know, that would be good. But let's get AJ and Wilder. You know, let them fight, and that's it. You know. It seemed like that's the best way to go. Fury is a master at picking the right time to fight certain people. You know what I mean? And I'm just tired of the calculated, you know, fight planning with Fury. It's just extremely calculated, yo. We can never believe anything he says. We have to wait until a press conference before we really believe what fight Fury is going to get next. All right. So anyway, that is for today's Wave Report. Again, please subscribe to the channel, smash the like button, share the video if you could. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Have a good day. Peace.